Hello everyone. I'm Nicola Quayle. I'm one of the co-founders of AI Marketers Guild APAC, along with my colleagues Dax Sharma, Maddie Sharma from India, and Sushmita Mohapatra from Singapore. So we're really great, really excited to have you all here in what is hopefully going to be one of our biggest AI Marketers Guild webinars to date. And really excited to see this community expand across APAC, but we actually have some colleagues also dialing in from North America. Before I introduce our two incredible guest speakers today, I'm just going to give those new to the community and today just a little quick background of who we are and what we do. So AI Marketers Guild was the brainchild of a US marketer, David Berkowitz. And for anyone on his LinkedIn, he says not that David Berkowitz, but anyway, after launching 2 years ago, and it's actually grown into a significant community in North America, particularly given the impact of AI at the moment. We reached out to David to partner with AIMG and create a regional community that could sort of showcase local pioneers in AI tools and applications, marketing best practice, integrating AI, and world-class AI thought leaders. And we've been really privileged to have so many join us in the last 6 months. So we host monthly webinars like this, and we'll be inviting you to join our Slack community afterwards. And we're hoping to host some city-based meetups later this year. So rather than dabbling on the fringes, we love that everyone here is leaning in. So on that note, I'm really excited to have two of these marketing pioneers, and I will call them marketing pioneers, here today. I do have to thank a mutual colleague and friend, Adam Murphy, for introducing me to Adele and Maddie from Treasury Wines Estates. Look, running a large global marketing insights function is challenging enough, but how on earth do you streamline and create efficiencies in the management and distribution of all that data and insight that sits within a complex business? So this is one of the many challenges that Adele and Maddie set out to solve using AI. Whilst I love the technical side of what they've achieved and the story that they're going to share today, what really has inspired me about these two is the entrepreneurial spirit, that they had to apply in solving this problem. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Adele Felsch and Maddie Simic to share their story. They're going to present for about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, and then we will definitely have time for questions at the end, which I'm sure there's going to be a few of. So just pop those into the Q&A or the chat, and we'll go through those at the end. So welcome, Adele and Maddie.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicola, and thanks everyone for having us today. First time ever being called a marketing pioneer. I'll take it. I'm not actually a marketer by background, but I am embracing it fully and starting to love the world of marketing. Me and Maddie are super excited to be chatting to you guys today. It is definitely out of our comfort zone. So we are typically not the ones to sort of put our hands up and like to share and talk about ourselves or work that we do. So bear with us today, be kind, but something that we are super passionate about and excited to share the great work that the entire team has done, and also sort of look forward to the future and what more we can do as part of this journey. So with that, I think like a true marketer, we've got a video to kick things off, because why not?
At TWE, we have more data than we have ever had before, from a various range of insights across the company, the business, and we really needed a way in which we could organise that data into one point that the teams could access, and even more importantly and powerfully, have a way in which we could actually distill that data down into useful insight.
We quickly understood that working with an enormous amount of data, we could quickly allow the people inside TWE to get the insights rapidly and effectively and efficiently.
I think the most exciting thing at TWE with AI is that it gives us a competitive advantage, but it also gives everyone the ability to do insights in their own way and in an efficient way, which is really around leading the industry.
The most beneficial part we've found with using RV and Viti is it's been embedded with our usage and attitude study called Project Horizon. So RV and Viti are using the same language when it comes to understanding consumers and occasions and linking that to market data. So when we're trying to understand opportunities and insights, it's coming back to us in a language that we're using to plan internally and share with customers.
We've actually got a global brand launch that's happening right now. and it's probably been the most robustly tested concept that we've ever gone to market with. And again, at every turn, we've used consumer insight to really sharpen our proposition and make sure it was relevant to consumers all around the world.
A lot of companies haven't even worked out their AI policies, but with Treasury Wine, they're not only looking at it and investigating it, they're integrating it into their day-to-day activities. So they came to us and we were working with them on some other projects, and they said, we've got these AI agents. Can you actually bring them to life and create them as almost like they're people? And so we actually used AI to do that. And so we created 2 personas for the AI agent. One was Avi, and one was Viti, and these would represent the different AI agents that they use to generate insights and also generate innovation within the company.
The other example literally happened last week. I was in another market, another region over in the UK, and I was asked a question around sangria, which I don't know very much about, and I literally, live in a meeting, I thought, how am I going to answer this question? And I jumped on and I used Avi and Viti to say, tell me about sangria. It was amazing to be able to share that with the team on the spot, and within 5 or 10 minutes we had the key dot points we needed to understand who drinks it, why do they drink it, and what could it mean for us as a business. And I don't know how I would have answered that question. I would have said, leave it with me, and gone off and done something for a week and then come back with it. And I was able to answer the question in 5 or 10 minutes, at least a great starting point. So that was a great example where it was a bit of a game changer for me.
Bringing consumers to life through AI has really helped build the visibility and simplicity of our consumer segments. And I think this is like a little bit counterintuitive, because for a lot of people, AI is a little bit scary and daunting. But instead, what AI is doing for us in this space is it's bringing what we previously had as 100-page decks of consumer insights presentation and making them more visible and able for people to interpret them. And in that way, we're making this information so more accessible, not only to our business, but also the way that we share this information with our customers.
One of the big differences that I see between TWE and some of the other organisations that we are dealing with in this market is that TWE has consciously embedded this technology now into its DNA and to its people. They've taken the fear away from this technology, and its people are now beginning to embrace it and understand it. And with that cultural acceptance, there's nothing stopping this organisation from doing some really wonderful things with this new technology that clearly we are very excited about.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think taking a step back and thinking about how we sort of tackled this project and reflecting on it, it feels longer than 8 months ago, but 8 months ago, I think we and Maddie and I, as a consumer insights group and part of a global community, I think anyone that has dealt with data or insights before, I'm sure has felt this. And as marketers, I think we tend to also feel overwhelmed by the amount of data that we have access to. And coming into a global central role, this was only more further exasperated, right? And when you think about this role, the first thing I wanted to do when I came into a role, right, was understand, what do we have access to? What can I get my hands on? Having a data background myself, you know, how can I better understand the different markets? How do I understand the nuances by the different consumer groups? And really quickly, I found that there wasn't a one-stop shop for me to access these data. I mean, everyone would love that, wouldn't they? But really quickly, we found, I think, how do I actually start to embed in this journey? And I think the first thing that we thought about was, how do we get access to everything in one central location? And that sounds simple, but actually that was probably one of the hardest challenges in conquering this from the beginning. So as a collective community, we came together, and I think between us all, we sourced, I think it was roughly 18,000 documents, right? And that lived from everywhere, from someone's desktop to someone's SharePoint to someone's email. And that was the first sort of tipping point where we said, okay, well, we need to actually effectively organize this data in some way, shape, or form so that we can all access and manage it. And that kind of goes on the left-hand side, right? I think everyone can attest to this, on having realms of data, but not really knowing how to action it or how to execute it. So talking about efficiency, data overload, a lot of manual analysis. And we thought there's got to be a better way to be able to interpret, accept, and get our hands on this data in a clean and more efficient way. So we developed and established what we called Consumer HQ. And that was really around putting all of our data into one central location, making it usable, formatting it in a way that a human could access, right? And that would feel intuitive if you were to search for something. So take an example of something that hopefully everyone can relate to, but a better for you category. So I think everyone can relate to that from a food lens into a wine lens, right? You want to access any documentation that we might have either done research on that's on the web, or anything that we want to compile and simplify. So within this framework, we could simply search better for you, BFY, and access, the 1,200 documents that we might have had access to. And that was a live example of something that we sort of lived through. The other pain of that then is it's great to have a library of insights and great to have access to something, but how do we actually simplify and use that in a live either customer example into consumer testing? And that's really where we started to think about how does AI actually enhance and improve the way that we work, and how do we actually do the things that we love to do and not the things that we don't love to do, which is probably compiling documents and simplifying multiple different data sources. But we want to create the beautiful stories and create the amazing brands that we get to bring to our consumers. So I think that was really, I guess, the starting point of the creation of where we'll get to Viti and Avi, but was really starting with how do we actually get all of our data into one place that makes logical sense to someone? And then how do we actually use AI to intersect that and enhance our ability to the next level, which is what you see on the screen here. I think there's another build if you just click down for me. Yeah, which is kind of consistent to what you see on this screen. And what it also helped develop as you start to build out these amazing AI tools was consistent common language. When you think about different regions of different cultures of different languages, how does everyone be able to access this information? Because information is power, and it will help us enhance our broaden our understanding into the future. So this was really the starting point of how we actually developed and started to think about a human overlay to help enhance our day-to-day jobs. So if you go into the next slide for me, this really formed our intro to our AI assistants. And we thought a lot about this. I heard reference to, I've heard reference to bots and AI tools. We actually debated about this a long time, whether it's AI assistants or AI agents. We really wanted to humanize these. I think a lot of us get nervous around the AI and it can feel overwhelming. I think, ChatGPT has probably changed that world for a lot of us, where it's really simple, it's easy. And I think we really wanted to bring that human element and actually make them feel part of our team. And that way, if they felt part of our team, people would feel more comfortable in using them and asking for help. So hence formed the creation of Viti and Avi. So we went on two ends of the spectrum here. We stick to the facts. So I'm very much a data background and a bit of a purist. So data is power for me, and making sure we can have access to all the data we also pay for. Having a financial background is also super important to me. So the first and foremost was the creation of Viti, who was very focused on getting the right data facts, sourcing the right materials, and making sure that what we have was accurate and true. And we partnered with a really important company called GPTStrategic, who are critical in helping us set this up in a really agile, innovative, and different way that really worked with us. We didn't have all the answers, but they worked with us in partnering to make sure that we took them on the journey and improved it along the way. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you'll see Avi, who is all around innovation, creation, and really different, and thinking outside of the box and taking this amazing data, different sets, and creating new ideas that potentially we would have never thought of in unexpected ways. And really interesting to see how this can kind of fast track different research processes and how we can actually think about new and exciting ideas within data when we actually have the facts, but taking that in a really clever and concrete way. And Maddie's going to explain the more technical terms of how this all comes together. But really, this was the creation and the spark of coming from the purest data side, which is really Viti, and think of him as a data or category analyst or consumer analyst, to Avi, who's really leading innovation in an exciting, differentiated way, fueled by the amazing data sets behind this tool. So into actually how they work and what's ingested behind the scenes. If you go to the next slide for me. This is actually some of the data that's live and loaded behind Viti and Avi. So again, like I spoke about, Viti is really that knowledge-based tool. So a lot more around our brand health data, our category data, our usage and attitude study, which is a huge undertaking across the globe, and distilling that into some really concrete data sources. It was trialed and tested, so we continued to prompt that with human overlay, which was super important. Also giving them feedback and credit, which who would have thought is a really complimentary and happy thing. If you think of that as humans, I think everyone loves some positive reinforcement and feedback. And then Avi, which is not knowledge base, and this one kind of is so different to sort of the technical way of how we form that. But we've done some amazing thinking in this space, leveraging flavor ideas, different flavor combinations, and thinking about brainstorming in workshops, that you can have someone that's just a futurist combined with a creative, combined with different marketing skills, that anyone can ask questions, and no questions with them is ever a silly question, which is pretty amazing to open up that power. And so with that, I'll hand over to Maddie to talk you through a little bit more of the technical side and what Viti and Avi entail.
Great, thanks, Adele. So as Adele mentioned, probably where we saw the most value was a way that people could actually access our usage and attitude study in a really easy self-service way, and also ask questions and have the assistants come back using the same language we use in this study. So the consumer segments, when you ask about them, and we have names internally that will mean nothing to anyone on the call, but it knows what they are and it responds back. And if we ask a question around occasions, again, it's sourcing it from that data. So it's back in the same language, and that's really helpful for us when it's, I guess, unified as a total global TWE. It's really important that we're speaking that one consumer language. As Adele mentioned, we have a lot of data. That's definitely not the problem, but it's how we can access all those data sources and consider them before we go off and do research. So what do we have today about better for you? And that really helps elevate what we have existing before we go off and do testing. And then innovation, I think knowing that this is a secure platform for TWE, but it has the same, I guess, functionality and user experience as a ChatGPT, so people feel comfortable, it's familiar to use, but it's totally secure to us. So nothing leaves those conversations. All our secure data is loaded. All those conversations can be sensitive and private. We can ideate on the best, the next best thing with confidence, and have insights on tap for those in different regions, or quickly on your phone if you're in a customer meeting and someone's thrown you a curly question. This is just something that, we've never had, and I certainly would have loved this in sales. And as we go to create, new products, designs, campaigns, even partnerships, it's a great place to start, or refine ideas that have come up in a brainstorm as people, as a team. I think it's a great place to refine those ideas further and maybe interrogate briefs. So head over to the next slide, and I wanted to just sort of tangibly talk about like what we've seen since this has probably been 12 months really, and we're still sort of getting more users on board across the business. We have sort of training with our sales and marketing team in the UK tonight, and rolling out to more groups and teams. But as Adele said, like flavor innovation, just some examples of how we've used it. Coming up with things in territories that we probably hadn't considered, and certainly for our brands where we can load, say, our brand guidelines or past innovations, as well as trend reports. It can kind of overlay all those different points, and we can tweak the coding or the creativity level to get what we want out of those assistants. Even just painful things that Adele's mentioned that no one wants to do, summarizing consumer verbatim into themes or summarizing it into an email and then a table, and just doing it in seconds is absolutely game-changing. Again, embedding our consumer language across all our divisions and regions. And self-service insights, I think this probably exists in every business, but often you'll get pinged on Teams. I just need a quick insight about sustainability. I've got to do this report. Can you just send me this? And it, pulls you in all sorts of directions. And, maybe the question won't be answered through the assistants, but it's a great place for everyone to start. And I think teams having access to this, we noticed straight away the noise just quietened because people felt like they could go and they didn't have to sift through an 80-page document or, try and feel overwhelmed by it all. I think in terms of how we integrated and adopted it and how we're talking about, Arvi and Viti being part of the team or extensions of our team, I think of them as like a great jumping off point. So don't know how to start this brainstorm. I don't know where to begin. I just need the shell of the brief. I need someone to get the work started, research questions. What am I missing? Where are my gaps? That's how I view it, but also a great sparring partner. I've got this great brief. I think it's flawless. I upload it, and, that's very humbling when it comes back with all sorts of ways that you're maybe not being as clear as you thought you were, or it interrogates a few gaps in your campaigns or even blind spots in proposals. Have you considered this? Or in partner proposals, they're missing this information. So it's wonderful for that. And I think, I think for benefits and impact, Adele talked about this less time of us chewing through all this data and more time for creativity and strategy and analysis and working as a team on those things, but ensuring that insights is part of every step, because it's no longer this, this irritating or tension point that we grind against where we don't feel like we can access the insights and data easily, and having a safe environment to do that is, it's definitely a game changer. On the next slide, what did we learn? Lots.
Yeah, I think we'll tag team this, but I think, what and it's on here, don't gatekeep the tech, but using interactive approach or iterative approach for projects. So just making sure that we're flexible, we're learning. No one has the answers in this space, right? It's that learning mentality and continuously accepting to fail, but failure brings good results. And I think, gosh, we learned so much from doing this, and just had that mindset of continuing to sort of spot check, and doesn't have to be perfect straight away. And with a small group, right, that is trusting, accepting, and that you can really collaborate with was definitely a great way to also learn together, and also come and share this sort of amazing technology as a team, which kind of brings us to the next point around keeping that community quite small in the beginning. I think this can be a really overwhelming space for a lot of us, but having a small core group that's all in it together, and making sure that we feel comfortable with it. And if we don't, that's okay. Continue to pressure test it, ask it different questions. And then that way you can build out these small success stories that turn into big success stories that you feel comfortable with sharing with the broader audience. That we found was the response was overwhelming. I think we thought, because when you're in it, you don't think it's as big potentially as what it is. And then once you start to get out of it, you realize the efficiency and how much time it can save you overall, that helps you just be better at your job as well. And then the last one, Maddie, I'll
That's for
add
me.
to you.
Yeah, this is as much for me. I've written down because I'm guilty of this. Yeah, and when I say knowledge, the more documents to load behind the AI systems, more knowledge that it sources from does not mean better responses. And I think that is, I'm guilty of this, of it potentially becoming another SharePoint, which we don't want to happen. Is making sure that, I guess, that the best documents, the most relevant documents or data is loaded, it remains up to date, you have good governance around it. because that's a real risk, is thinking that more is better. But that's just, I think, as you go along that journey, how do you have guidelines, or how do you ensure that you're not just uploading anything that comes through your inbox or anything that gets refreshed? Because I guess it just loses its integrity a bit in the responses as you go.
That was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but we wanted to share some of our thinking, our learnings, and then be able to make sure that we open it up to questions for the community. So I think it's over to questions.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you both. That's brilliant. And I know how much has gone. It all looks so simple when you put it on a PowerPoint deck. A year's work come down to that. But yeah, so Shveta has certainly jumped in, and it's something I'm curious to get you guys to share is, I mean, take us back to that kind of early stages when you guys even had the idea. And, you know, as I said, that kind of entrepreneur, you know, how on earth did you get the buy-in? And I'm guessing they didn't sort of, well, maybe they did open their wallets and say, yes, no problems, go nuts. But yes, so how did you start, you know, even just the kernels?
It's a great question. I think we have a really curious, accepting, adaptable environment, which I think is so important at TWE, and we're really lucky for that. We also found an amazing partner in GPTStrategic, who our IT department, and working closely with Maddie and their team, that was secure, and we felt really comfortable and confident in that, which is so important in this space. And we started small, right? And I think I kind of used it as a bit of a testing guide on what would we normally spend with an innovation idea, or what would we normally spend in terms of a research concept. Well, let's carve out that money and let's have a play. And we now have a test and learn bucket that I carve out every year to literally trial and test and play with new and different ideas. And in marketing, I think that's so important, right? To have that, call it a creativity box or whatever that looks like. But we definitely sort of started small, had the IT buy-in, and then worked collaboratively behind the scenes. So I think that would be the learning from my end, and had a bit of fun with it, and didn't take it too serious either, which is always part of the fun.
Fantastic. And so we talked about the bringing to life the two AI agents, but why was it important to give them kind of personalities, and how did that process work?
Well, I can start. Yep. I think, I guess just going back to Adele's point about wanting them to be extensions of the team. And I think when we started to talk about it before they had names, it was just clunky. It was like, oh, the insights, you know, and it just felt really stale. And I think we wanted it to feel like, and it was a TWE designed, I guess, product. So we gave them wine names, like there is a meaning behind them, and they both have hidden meanings to do with wine, like Viti, viticulture. You can probably connect a few of them. But it just, yeah. So it was that idea of a name means that in a meeting, hopefully you're more inclined to say, let's ask Avi, than to say, let's ask the TWE innovation AI assistant, which feels a bit cold.
We're also in marketing, so we needed to brand something and give it a bit of a logo, which we all know is really important. And we also, I think, coming from a data background, I always say, like, I want like data's turn to be sexy and cool and innovative, and I think that was part of this lens as well, as hopefully that gives that side a voice in a branding, which is kind of cool when your CEO can reference Viti and Avi as if they were employees, which you don't get every day.
No, it's awesome. Oh, that's good. Viti, I was wondering with the background of that, so that's good. That's answered that.
I just had one question, Nicola,
yeah.
just a very small follow-up. Who held the budget for this? Was it marketing or was it the data team? I'm sorry, it's just super technical, but it's good to like learn, you know, how it gets implemented in businesses. So is the budget, where does the budget come from? Is it, you know, with one team or the other? Is it an innovation budget? Is it an insights budget?
Started with, I can kick that one off. It started with a innovation bucket that that's that. And then now it's actually just a shared bucket. So I think we just mutually agree on what we want to do, and it actually works really well because then we've all got sort of skin in the game, call it, and a collaborative approach to make sure that we're all testing and learning at the same time.
Great, thanks, Nicola.
That's all right. And so from Rob, you had your pilot community, but how long did it take, you know, from that test and learn stage until rolling out to the wider group?
Yeah, I feel like having to go back now.
Yeah, so we had probably 3 different stages that spring to mind, and this was not planned, although it seems like this was planned seamlessly. People that have worked with me, I'm process, but I'm not really process. So it started with a really small group of, call it 5 of us, that were all the insights leads from the collective regions. Once we felt comfortable with that, we then expanded it to the broader insights group that was probably roughly 20. And then from there, we then expanded it more broadly to the business. Happened reasonably quickly. I want to say probably from start to finish was maybe 4 months. So it happened reasonably quickly because once that small pilot we trialed and tested, I think we pretty quickly were very impressed with the results that we were getting. That soon became, okay, well, if then the data experts are comfortable with this, then I think we feel pretty safe to share it with the more broader group. So that's how much quickly it evolves as well in terms of the AI space, which I think we can all relate to.
That's impressive though. That's a very impressive rollout. If you think of, you know, traditional kind of product rollouts, yeah, that's amazing. And so in terms of training, Avi, you know, and correct me, so Viti's based on everything all the data and insights, but yeah, what sources did you use to train Avi? Because, you know, obviously Avi is going out into the wider world, but are you pointing her in any specific directions or sources?
At the moment, Avi is a free spirit, but they are coded a little bit differently. So you would have seen in the slide that Adele presented, yes, Viti has all those documents and there's quite a number of them. But also Viti, if a question is asked and we don't have that data or answer available, a response won't be provided. The system will come back and say, I don't have data on that. Please, you know, drop in a document if you think that we should have this information available. So the comment was in there, but there's like no hallucinating. And that's really intentional because we want to be dealing with data and facts for Viti. And it also, when we use that AI assist in Viti, it cites the references of the documents so that, you know, team members can fact check the information, also like reference it in presentations with customers and things like that. So it's intentional, I guess, that Avi is using more of like open web and is a little bit more creative in the responses or, yeah, wider thinking, but not constrained by anything we know today. So that means all the documents as well.
That's great. It's great having those 2 perspectives, as you say, kind of, and, you know, I mean, sometimes the point of letting the AIs hallucinate is for that innovation and future thinking. So, yeah, that's really interesting. And Heather, colleague from New Zealand. So, yeah, in terms of, you know, commissioning research, you know, as you said, it's now helping answer a lot of those questions and reduce your work. Have you found you're having to commission kind of less primary research, or is it more around being more effective or more pointy, I guess, with what you commission?
Yeah, I can take that one, Maddie. I think it's more the latter. So I think we'll always need research and better understanding, but it's helped in twofold, right? It's helped in being more pinpointed, to your point, in narrowing exactly what that research brief and need is from a consumer understanding, which is so much better. And then on the creative side, so we have an in-house creative agency, we're getting so much better at our actual creative briefs as well, with refining that and just helping continuously overlay and making sure that that brief is as simple as possible, but actually answering the objective and the questions that we want in. So it's definitely helped us get more refined, better in that process. And I think getting better outputs, some of our creative is probably the best we've seen in our time, which I think is a true testament to just continuing to evolve this and better refine our briefs.
Sushmita, do you want to ask your question?
Sorry, I have another one. This is around the metrics tracked, and I think it's kind of a continuation to what Heather was asking. So one is obviously the use of insights, and you did give us some ideas around how the creative process has changed. But did you have any kind of metrics like man hours saved, or is that too technical, or just stuff that you don't think you can really put a number to? So anything around impact numbers or KPIs?
We didn't have exactly set, I wouldn't call them sort of set KPIs, but we went in with thinking about, particularly on the consumer insights and data point of view, I think really restricted with resource and time, capacity, efficiency. So we really kind of went in with a target. I think quite honestly, it was like, how do we save 10 hours a week, right? Do we think that's realistic? And I think, again, kind of with that mentality of starting small, realistic, but in my mind, 10 hours a week, that's 1 day a week of someone's person time. So think about what they could use and implement. So that was really the target for me. It also helped justify a budget, which is always helpful in terms of that time and cost. And then from there, we don't necessarily track the hours, but I think we worked out pretty quickly that on average we probably save a day a week per team at the moment, and that's pretty easily measured by just the less frequent ad hoc requests that we are getting from an insights community, which means we actually get to work on the big rock, so to speak, or the big focus areas, as opposed to a lot of the noise and a lot of the questions that come through, which are now being a lot more self-served. So we haven't actually scorecarded it yet, but we're thinking about it. But we're in two minds about whether we need to formalize that or whether we feel happy with the progress that we're making and continue to just focus on building that out more. But really good question.
Great, thanks, Adele and Maddie.
And so with the two personas, is there any plans for a third or fourth of other departments? I know, Maddie, you mentioned like within sales, it would have been great to have had sales. Could you almost bring out a client persona or a consumer persona even?
Yeah, reading our minds. So I think we didn't talk about it there, but we do have specifically.
Oh, sorry, Maddie. I might get you just to lean closer and just can't quite hear you. Thank you.
No worries. You've got me now. Good. Yeah. So we do have an additional AI assistant, which we didn't present, which is Penny, which is Penfolds specific. So I think we have luxury insights and certain specific consumer information, which makes Penfolds a bit unique. So we do have one specifically for Penfolds called Penny. Very new to the AI assistant family. And yes, we are looking at that consumer one, which feels really obvious and very exciting territory. So yeah, working on that prototype as we speak. So yeah, I think there'll be more. But yeah, it's just ensuring that we have the right use case to follow.
That's fantastic. So Jimmy, please. And yeah, great.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't message in the chat box for some reason. So perfect. Actually, I had a question in terms of how did the technological evolution came along the way, like based on your learning, and how the technology supported you, or did you had any big drama from the technology point of view? So just want to understand how was your technology journey to make this a success? Whatever platform you selected or applications you selected in those ones.
Yeah, great question. I think coming back to the beginning and kind of the key learnings and why I made it successful was the IT endorsement and ensuring that we felt comfortable with the technology, which I think is first and foremost when we're dealing with any AI. And then we also partnered with the GPTStrategic team, which were great in being fluid with that process, I would call it, and working and changing and adapting. So it was definitely not, this is the tool and this has to work. It was, oh, that works, that didn't, oh, is this working for you, is it not? So it was a true collaboration and partnership that we could work on and adapt together. So very much a customized process and journey, which is so important, especially in this space.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, has anyone got any other questions? Your last chance. I mean, just a very quick one. So how long, in terms of, because I know trying to collate that amount of data and reports from so many computers and people's desktops, as you said, how did you go about that process? Was that just a bit of a, let's just start and email, or did you formularize it? Yeah.
That was actually probably one of the hardest parts. Like is where do you start? And I think so we did set up a mini community, and I'll remember we all were we tried to make it fun, right, and called it like a hackathon, and you have timers to see how many documents can be uploaded in a minute. So we definitely had a bit of fun with that and tried to make it fun on something that's a pretty boring task if we're honest with ourselves. But it was really that small group coming together to say that there's a need for us to better consolidate our insights, to better make sure we've all got visibility and making sure we've got access to all the documentation, and in efforts of getting closer to each other as well and improve our ways of working. So we definitely started small. The hardest part was aligning on the hierarchy at the beginning on what we'd actually theme the different data sources into. And then working very closely with IT around how we actually make sure when we're labeling these different documents and saving them, that they're in a format that makes sense, that logically we could understand. And we didn't know at the time, but that was kind of the key gateway to actually having AI and leveraging the technology over top, right? Was having that done in a relatively clean, consistent format that was logical.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Adele and Maddie. Really appreciate your time today. And, I know, as I said, we'll be sharing this with the wider community, but it's just been a fantastic experience and just hearing the journey that you've gone on, but also that you've taken the whole company on, really, because who would have thought, when you started this together, that suddenly from the CEO down, they'd be tapping into RV and Viti. So yeah, congratulations to you both, and looking forward to seeing more come out of TWE. And thank you, everybody. So we'll be sending out the recording and an invite to the Slack community as well, and look forward to seeing you next month for our next webinar. So enjoy your morning, afternoon, and evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.